So, how did the Prancing Skiltaire come to be?
That was interesting.
Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of The Raccoon's Den. And for today's episode, we're featuring a trip we recently took to the Prancing Skiltaire for a special interview with the event hosts, Silas Sable and Vincent Mink.
Wasn't this your first fur meet?
Yeah, February 2010. It would also become the main location for many of our episodes over the years.
Yeah, a lot of good memories were had there. I know it's where I've met a lot of my close friends.
Same here. Now I've noticed that something we've done with a few other events, but not this one, is finding out where it all started and how it came to be. And personally, I thought that was kind of odd considering this has been the most featured fur meet on the show.
It's pretty much a historical landmark for the fandom too.
Agreed.
You've interviewed Vincent before, haven't you?
Yeah, but that was for the gift exchange, which I believe still happens every year in December. We also haven't featured this event much since season 7, and it's gone through a lot of updates.
The backyard looks amazing now.
Right?
And now, on to the interview.
Enjoy.
Hi, I'm Mark Merlino. My fan name is Silas Sable.
I am Rod O'Reilly. I am known as Vincent Mink.
So, what were you both doing prior to the furry fandom?
I was in college until 1975. I discovered the science fiction fandom in 1972, and I was attending the Thursday night meetings of the LA Science Fantasy Society in Burbank, and I was going to their little convention, and I started going to other conventions throughout the late 70s and early 80s. In addition to that was the CFO, the Cartoon Fantasy Organization. We would screen animation film and also videos of Japanese animation recorded off of television in our area and tapes we would trade with Japanese fans. I was familiar with fandom. I thought it was cool.
Before the furry fandom, I was looking for furry fandoms. I didn't even know what a fandom was. I just know that I was this lonely, geeky kid who was really into cartoon animals, trying to find other people like me. Eventually, I discovered, like this guy, science fiction fandom, right about when I was in high school, and I was having as much fun as nerds ever have in high school, especially LGBT nerds in high school. So I formed a science fiction club. We started going around to local conventions, and the very first convention I went to that had an art show, which was LosCon 7, 1980 in Anaheim. Los Angeles Science Fantasy Society wound up having to put on their convention in Orange County for once. My high school club went as a field trip, and there in the art show I saw these weasel characters with antennas, and I am an absolute fanatic for everybody in the weasel family: weasels, otters, skunks, badgers, wolverines, what have you. And so I immediately noticed this and said, hey, who the heck is this artist? And they said, this guy.
So, how did you both meet?
The first time that the two of us met was at LosCon 7 in Anaheim.
What did we meet over? Weasels!
Well, I was running a screening room which showed science fiction television shows from the CFO collection, which I was the archivist librarian of. And I also decided to put some of my art in the art show of my Skiltaire characters. They're kind of cartoony otters and pine martens with antennas, interesting striped colored patterns. I was in my video room, and this person came up and said, hey, I wanted to ask you why your otters and martens have antennas. And I said, sit down, I'll explain it to you.
So, how did the Prancing Skiltaire come to be?
That was interesting. I was hanging out with people in science fiction fandom, and some of them lived in my area. Other people said, hey, we're going to see if we can rent an apartment in the same complex. And it turned out that 3 of them were able to get apartments in the same complex. And I had in 1980 a 2-day party at my parents' house and came up with the name Prancing Skiltaire based on the prancing pony from the Tolkien stories. and my critters, and the fact that one of the people I knew was really into pubs. So I was trying to get the ambiance of a British pub. If you've seen a real British pub in the UK, it's like the community family room. It's not just a bar. It's a place where everybody goes for events, birthday parties, wedding receptions, whatever, go to the pub. So it was a very successful party, and I made this really pretty pub sign with 2 Skiltair on it, prancing Skiltair, and I hung it in front of my parents' house. Then I took that sign to my apartment and hung it out in front of my apartment. My apartment became the prancing Skiltair. Discussing things with the people who lived there, I said, we could save a lot of money if we found a big house and rented it together. So I started putting feelers out to look for a house to rent. And it turned out that there was a couple that had this property, the rental property they had bought in Garden Grove, and it was this very strange house. And it was reasonable. The people in the other apartment said, this is great, we'll all be roomies. We rented the house in 1983.
Immediately turned the fancy dining room, which a bunch of geeky nerds do not need, into another bedroom. Took the master bedroom, which was the size of an airplane hangar, split it in half, and turned it into 2 bedrooms.
2 bedrooms, yeah. In 1986, we were contacted by our landlords who said, we have to sell the property. It's not doing us any good. We have to get rid of the property. Unfortunately for me, my father had passed away and had left me an inheritance for the down payment of a house. So I said, fine, we'll buy the house. And they were overjoyed. And the Prancing Skiltair name went over from my apartment to the house. We would have a monthly meeting at the house here to plan for the convention, which included setting up mailings to send out to people to advertise the convention. Because there's no internet. Those were the pre-Prancing Skiltair parties.
In the early 70s and late 60s, early 70s, a lot of science fiction fans who couldn't afford to buy houses themselves started gathering together, hooking up and buying houses as a group. And they referred to those households as slan shacks. There had been science fiction group households for quite some time. So we were the latest slan shack on the block, but we just happened to be the one that housed a bunch of furry fans.
This became the center of the furry fandom. Pretty much lots of furry things happened here.
There was a lot of history in this house, with many collectibles and memorabilia all throughout the home. What are some pieces you would say are particularly important to you, and what makes them so special?
A lot of what we have here is collectibles that anybody can acquire. A lot of our figurines are slanted in the weasel direction. We have a lot of animation art, original cells from back when films and television shows were made with hand-painted cells. Special presentation artwork that's similar. Collections of, like I have a collection of model cars from the Cars movies and Studebakers because I'm a Studebaker fan and I have a real Studebaker. The stuff that I think is the most interesting is the stuff that was customized or made for us. And probably my favorite is the cast picture, basically, of the first Light Pride from the Lion King Muck. It's a text-based chat system, and they have themes. This one had a Lion King theme, and everybody role-played as if they were part of the Lion King universe. And we started our own unique pride. Our in-house furry artist, Sherwood, he had done a lion pride. He came up with this beautifully rendered, giant, original colored pencil drawing of the pride, which hangs in our living room. You know, that was special to me because it was something I was involved in with a lot of my friends, and it turned into a piece of custom art.
One thing that I think is kind of the most amazing thing in the Prancing Skiltair household, it has to be Theta. And she has kind of become, I think, a symbol of the household. This life-size model of one of Cy's Skiltair from a story that he had been writing, crafted by a wonderful artisan named Julie Bowman.
Yeah, she's kind of like the house mascot.
Literally, the house mascot, yeah. I'd say she's one of the more important things that we have here.
So, prior to the pandemic, what have been some obstacles and challenges you faced in order to keep the event going?
some of the things we discovered. Originally, we decided we weren't going to have alcohol available at the party, but we let people bring their own. It was a bring your own booze situation.
And they did. Lots.
We expected people to be responsible. The problem was we had no age limit on the party. We had parents bringing their teenage kids, or teenage kids just showing up, sneaking around drinking, which is a big no-no. Every couple of months, someone would go crazy and abuse alcohol, and they'd have to call an ambulance or have someone drive them to a hospital or something, and it just upset the party.
Not to mention that at the end of the party, you had a bunch of drunken boobs walking across our neighborhood back to their cars.
The other thing we did, which was a mistake, is we didn't have a closing time. The party ended when everybody left, and people would stay a long time. They would walk out to their cars and stand around and talk at 3 o'clock in the morning on people's front lawns. This did not go well. We had to start changing things. We basically said, okay, people aren't responsible enough who don't want any alcohol at our parties anymore. We discovered that there is a community curfew in Garden Grove. You can have parties and the police will not respond to things like noise complaints until 10 p.m. We used to have the parties from 6 until whenever. We'll shift them to 2 p.m. to 10 p.m. 10 p.m., everybody leaves. Then we're not liable anymore.
I'd say those were the two big things. That and a minor thing, but we had a request to make the parties non-smoking. Some people have asthma. It turns out that even if somebody was smoking in the front yard, somebody in the backyard would get the wind of it and start coughing, so.
Now, the other thing that's interesting is everybody that comes to these gatherings is not going to be polite or is not going to know how to act around other people. And we've had trouble with some people. What's cool about the way it worked is the party became a community and it became a self-policing thing. Don't invade people's personal spaces. Don't touch people who don't want to be touched. Leave people's stuff alone. The community took care of itself. One thing we do have to remind people of occasionally is you're a guest in our house.
So, final question. What does the future hold for the Prance and Skiltear?
Wow.
I guess we're going to try to keep doing what we've been doing. Having all this stuff and not letting people see it seems kind of like a waste. The house is a strange layout with all of its family rooms, dens, and living rooms all connected together. So the house was kind of designed to be a venue where people would visit. A lot of people probably come here and they'll glance around, they might ask some questions, and then they do their thing. Our parties aren't programmed. We don't have programmed games. We don't have programmed events except for our December gift exchange thing. I don't think you could have this party in like a rented venue and have a PS party because the PS is the party. Being surrounded by the art is part of the whole experience. And I think that's gonna stay that way as long as we can keep it together, as long as people still actually go to physical places. I mean, if everybody ends up, uploading themselves into VR, then I guess we'll have to upload our house into VR too.
Working on that.
We're experimenting with it in VR chat with my friend Stray from Germany, who has programs that convert still pictures into 3D rooms.
When I got out of running conventions, I thought I was going to go crazy for a while, but I'm discovering that I'm actually enjoying being a retired big-name fan.
Yeah.
We're kind of riding off into the sunset and enjoying it. I'm starting to think about the idea of an international furry fandom museum. People are starting to ask us what's going to happen with all this stuff when we're gone. And, this house is a museum.
We go to conventions and we talk to people about the history, about us, and a lot of questions are, what about the future? It's like furry fandom in the past was a little different. We didn't have the internet. We didn't have all this online commerce stuff going on. We didn't have all these social media things where people hang out. Of course, now we have VR chat. And you have Furality, a VR convention. It has the largest attendance of any furry convention ever. I guess that, we're going to go virtual, but we'll still be here for people to come and walk around and look at real stuff.
And that wraps it up for this episode.
So before we go, a question for all of you.
What was the first furry event you ever attended, and how was it?
Share with us in the comments below.
If you enjoyed this episode, give it a like.
Want to be tuned in for more? Click subscribe and the bell.
We'll see you next time on the Raccoon's Den. Bye.
See ya.